Good morning. I'm Larry Bolheis, Principal IBM Power System Architect for Service Express. I'm happy to welcome you all to our annual iAdmin virtual event and to our opening keynote address. I would like you to imagine, if you will, a mind that has been absorbing, cogitating, and disseminating information around the most trustworthy operating system on the planet since before the AS400 even existed. A mind that hears from customers, vendors, and users through advisory groups around the world, using that input with his architects to formulate designs for future technology. The mind of an IBM distinguished engineer who has answered me straight out. But Larry, why would I spend my development team's time making something you do dozens of times a year simpler when you already know how to do it well? Would I not spend that time making IBM I better for thousands of developers and millions of users? Case closed. I welcome to our virtual stage a man I have enjoyed working with for nearly 20 years, one of the most sought after voices in the IBM I community, and the owner of that very mind, IBM I CTO, Steve Will.
Thank you very much, Larry. What a nice introduction. And I've enjoyed working with you at least most of those 20 years. No, seriously. You guys are great, and I'm really glad to be part of the event that you're putting on now. You all have had probably an opportunity to hear me speak if you've been in this business, been around IBM I for any time at all. The keynote that I want to give today is a modified version of a strategy presentation that I've done a bunch of times before. And just to let you know, I've been doing this particular job as the chief architect of the operating system for going on 19 years now. Out of my 41 years, almost half of it has been as chief architect. And so, because I have an opportunity fairly frequently to talk about the strategy and the roadmap of the platform, I like to refresh the way I talk about it every so often, usually about every year or so. And this year, as I was planning how I was going to talk about our strategy, I collaborated with my colleague, Chris Whitney, who is the IBM I chief engineer. Now, some of you may know him, but a lot of you probably don't. But as we discussed how we wanted to talk about our strategy, what we do, why we do what we do, one of the things that we decided to focus on was how our strategy is so influenced by the community of users, business partners, and solution developers in our community, the ones who use IBM I. And so the theme of this particular presentation is really about the collaborative strategy that IBM I has. So that's going to be the theme. I'm going to be talking about how you folks in the community have influenced so many things. Now, I'm also going to have some technical details, etc. But this is a keynote. So my focus is going to be more on the themes. It's going to be more on the how we got where we got and why we're doing what we're doing. But I know a lot of you are technologists and you'd like to see some technical details behind things. So again, before we really dive deep, let me explain my approach to this particular keynote. I want you paying attention to the words that I'm saying to you. I don't put all the words that I'm saying onto charts. What I want you to do is to be able to listen to what I'm saying, have the charts kind of ground you in what I'm saying. But because I know a lot of you are technologists and because there is actual technical detail that you'll probably want after this session is done, there are some of these charts that will have a lot of words on them, technical words on them, and I'm just warning you ahead of time. I'm not going to read them to you. I am not actually going to spend a lot of time on the charts that have a lot of technical detail. You'll have access to them. What I'd like you to do when you see a chart that comes up that has a lot of words is try best you can to listen to what I'm saying about the words on the chart, and then you can go back and look at the details later. Hopefully this is a 2-for-1, right? You get a chart set that has details that you want, but you'll get to hear the why I'm telling you about it. And that's the important part, as far as I'm concerned, of a keynote. All right, so I give full credit to Chris for helping me create this version of the presentation. But a lot of people weren't aware until we started talking about it that there are both a chief architect and a chief engineer working in development for IBM. And so as we started talking about this, Chris said, here, I'm going to create a description that helps people understand the difference between your job, Steve, and my job as chief engineer. Now, he and I have both understood what we need to do, what our roles and responsibilities are, but he decided to use AI to kind of create some avatars to explain the difference between us. So here's the one he created for me. I really love it. I know the photo that he gave to AI that ended up with me in that sweater. His view of what my job as chief architect is to think of the big, beautiful future things that we're going to build. To imagine, based on the knowledge that I do have from 41 years in this, plus my extensive advice that I get from my team, think what we could be in the future, and then set that as the future direction of the platform. So that's my job, chief architect. Now I have some other more gorpy responsibilities as well, but anyway, that's fair. That's a fair way to do it. So what does a chief engineer do? What is Chris's job? Well, this is the avatar he created for himself. It's like, okay, that's what Steve said we're going to do. Now it sounds sort of hard, maybe even impossible. How are we going to make that happen? And so he has to focus with the team on all the details of what it takes to get there. And I've got to tell you, ever since Chris took over this role as chief engineer, I really do appreciate it. I don't have to spend a lot of my day-to-day in the how is it currently getting done? What are the current problems that we have, until he or somebody else on the team hits a point where we have to make a decision, right? Some sort of, well, Steve, you said you wanted this to be an AI intuitive thing, but right now we don't have the pieces, but we could do something more deterministic if this is okay for right now. And then they bring that to me and we talk it through and we say, yep, as a stage point of view, we'll do the stage thing first, and then we'll still have a goal to do these other things. So his job is to try to take these big ideas and move them forward. Now, it is also fortunate for me that Chris has a set of history, a set of technologies he's worked in that I haven't worked deeply in. He knows storage. He knows availability better than I do, for example. And so he's able to have some big ideas of himself for himself. I'm certainly willing to adopt those ideas. So it's not like it's a hard and fast separation of duties here. He has a lot of good ideas and they become part of what we're doing as a platform. But that's him versus me. And one of the things that we both share is a desire to have our jobs influenced by the community that we have. Now, I have, because I'm longer in this company, a more traditional way of getting that input. I'll talk a bit about it as we go through here. He came into the company a little later, has been trained in things like design thinking, and so he has a different approach for getting the feedback, getting the information. Both of those styles have influenced what our current strategy is. All right, so what is that strategy? Well, any of you who have heard me speak before know that we have 3 core value propositions that drive our investments. Now, I haven't filled in all the little words that are underneath these 3 things right now, and that's by design. We'll get to that by the end of the presentation. But I want you to focus on what do we, Chris and I and the whole team, focus on when we decide whether we're going to put something into plan or not. And the first thing is, we know that people use our platform because the business solutions, the applications that they have, run their businesses and have unique value. And that unique value is made better because they're running on IBM I and Power than if those solutions were running somewhere else. And so, first and foremost, whenever we think of a new idea or whenever somebody brings us a new idea of something that we could do on the platform, we say, will this help the people who run our solutions or develop our solutions to do it better than they were doing before and better than they could do it somewhere else? So that's the first part of our strategy. The next part of our strategy is to give clients choices. Every single client has something that they want to do with the platform that's different than what they're doing today. But no one client is in the exact same position as any other client. And so we need to make sure that there are multiple options, multiple paths for moving forward. And often that means investing in open technology that they didn't have or hadn't used before so that they can decide whether an open technology should be added to what they're doing. That might mean, for example, using cloud technology that they didn't ever have the opportunity to use 30 years ago. They have the opportunity to do it today. Or open source languages that they didn't have an opportunity to use way back when their application was initially invented, but now they want to use it today. So we've got to give them choices and not lock them into one and only one way of going forward. And then finally, we are the platform that provides a low total cost of ownership by making things easy and integrated. We make our security model, the architecture that protects the system from viruses and Trojan horses, we make that pervasive throughout everything that we do so that clients don't have to worry about that. That's the integrated nature. So these are the core elements of how we decide what's going to go into plan. And Larry made kind of a joke. I mean, he gives us a lot of great suggestions, and we have implemented many of them. But I do have to make a call often on whether a team is going to work on a specific suggestion that will help a few people a few times, or if that team is going to work on something that's going to help a lot of people quite often. And that's part of that decision process too. But it's not factored into this list because it's just sort of a, yeah, you got to do that. Sometimes those things that help a few people help them so much that we really ought to do them. And we've done some of those things too. Okay, so that's the base part of our strategy. What do we use to evaluate whether something should go into our plans? Is it good for solutions? Does it provide people options to move forward? And are we providing unique IBM I value from our integration? But there is another part of our strategy, and I've already hinted at it when I described to you how I'm talking about the strategy and roadmap, and that's this collaborative, cooperative chart that I've used a few times in the last, say, 10 to 12 years. It really fits right now. How do we do collaboration and cooperation within our community? Well, there are a couple of things that we, IBM, we have to do. We have to communicate to you as well as we can the non-confidential information that lets you know where we're going and how we're going to do things, right? So you see us at conferences and at events like this with development people telling you where we're going and what we're doing so that we can educate you, but also so that you can hear directly from us and we can hear then back from you directly as well. So we've got to do that. That's our responsibility. And then, of course, we have to continue to invest in the things that you're going to want. And the first thing we got to invest in all the time is the stuff that you use all the time. The core workloads, DB2, the application development tool set, the ability to use Power, the ability to manage performance across a multi-workload operating system. Even if that's not what the rest of the industry is talking about, we know that our client base needs us to continue to advance those core things to take advantage of the new capabilities of technology, especially Power and IBM I. Then we have to invest in emerging technologies, but we cannot chase after every little emerging technology. We have to look ahead and say, what do we think of the emerging technologies are going to be table stakes in the next 5 to 10 years. What architectures or standards are going to be used so they'll be long-lived, they'll provide value for a long time, and we can invest in those things. So for example, while I haven't talked AI yet, Model Context Protocol, MCP, is a protocol that seems to be simple enough and adopted enough that it is going to be something that people are going to use to do agentic AI, and probably other AIs, but certainly agentic AI, well into the future. So we are investing in that, and I'll get to it before we're done, okay? But there are a lot of different technologies out there in the AI space if you're watching, and not all of them meet those criteria. So we might have something that's currently growing in the AI space that some 5% of the marketplace is saying, oh, you really ought to do this. And we will probably wait until it proves itself to be more pervasive than that before we do it. And then we have to invest in doing the things that our customers ask for. So high value requirements from customers with advice from advisory councils, and I'll talk about advisory councils soon. But then there's the rest of the community. Our customers don't generally move forward with their power family or with their operating system level by talking to an IBMer. Now, our very largest clients talk to IBMers, but you're probably some of the clients who work with partners. Oh yeah, partners like the people who are throwing this event, right? So we have to partner with business partners and ISVs and IBM champions. Not all community advocates are champions, but community advocates, and many of them are champions, making sure that we work with those people and those companies that are aligned with us in our strategy. So if you are an ISV or a business partner who is intent on keeping people on this platform because they know it's good for those customers to be on the platform, and they want those customers to adopt the newest technology, either that the business partner or the ISV provides or that IBMI is providing to give them more value, then they align with us. If there's an ISV out there who's trying to move you off the platform, we don't care about them. We don't actively work against them, but we won't work with them. But the ISVs and business partners, and especially the community advocates, we try to give them the information that they need so that they can help spread the word. So that's part of our collaborative strategy, and it does influence everything that we do, and you'll see that in the examples that I use in the rest of the presentation. Now, one of the ways we tend to show that collaborative strategy without showing that previous chart is to show this one that says we reach out to and collaborate with people all throughout the community. Now, our large users group, which is anywhere between 80 and 100 large customers at any given time who are part of this group, is one of those advisory councils that we have, but also through the common organizations around the world. So common in North America, common in Europe. Now there's a common in Japan. The IBMI Club is part of that. There's a common in India. There's a common in South and Central America. Anyway, there's a bunch of different common organizations, and a few of them, the more long-standing ones, have advisory councils that work with us. And so we work with those folks to look at what we could be doing in the future and get their advice on those things. And then we also partner with one particular company, Fortra, and IT Jungle, who covers us from a press and media point of view, to participate or ask you all to participate in a survey that happens every year. And I'll be showing a couple of charts from that survey. Now, that is not necessarily how we get new ideas. It's how we check the pulse, find out if what we think the customer base is interested in is, in fact, what they say they're interested in, and what we've been planning for. So one of the things, for example, that we look at, we always ask the question is, here's 14 or 15 different things. You who are responding to the survey, tell me which 5 of these are your top concerns as you plan for the future for your IT environment. And I'll just focus you in on those top 5 from this last survey. So according to the people who responded to the survey, and I think this pretty well matches what I see across the community I talk to, IBMI skills and security and modernizing applications all very close to each other, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, people out there in the world want to be taking their applications and moving them forward. That's the modernizing applications, but they need IBMI skills, which are harder and harder for them to get. And people who want to do things like security and high availability need skills as well, right? The administration skills and the programming skills both need help. High availability is not number 2 anymore. It always used to be number 2. Part of the reason for that isn't because it's not important to clients. It's because they've, generally speaking, addressed those issues and those other 3 things are higher in priority. So that's why some people will leave it off the list of their top 5, for example. And now, for the first time ever, artificial intelligence has lifted itself up into that top 5, which isn't surprising given what's going on in the conversations around IT around the world. So we have that as input. We've talked to a lot of clients. I personally speak to thousands of clients, and I speak with hundreds and hundreds of clients every year. So I get a feel for what it is that they want to do. There's also our business. IBM itself has a direction that they want us to address in the marketplace. And so this is input that we get from our product management team, from the people above us. They say, look, we know your clients want to do low total cost of ownership things, so that could mean autonomous IT. We know that more and more of your clients are interested in adopting cloud resources, at least for some parts of their infrastructures. How hybrid by design is important. We know that there's a lot of modernization going on, so we want you to focus on developer productivity and figure out how enterprise-grade AI can help them. And of course, your clients want security and resilience at least as much as other clients do, and that's a capability that's built into your architecture, so focus on that. Now, we work with the rest of IBM. It's not like they're telling us to do this and we didn't participate at all, but there's the IBM requirements, and then there's those requirements that come to us from our community. And we have to decide, okay, how are we going to invest? And this is another little picture that Chris created. We've got to take all of that stuff, what from individual customers, from our advisory councils, from what the rest of the power is telling us to do. We got to find a way to funnel that down and create the next things for IBMI. How do we decide to do that? Well, one of the ways that we're communicating what we're doing in our strategy this year is to talk about it in the form of lenses. If you're looking at our plan, it is actually a very integrated plan. There's a bunch of different projects that we're doing that affect a lot of different aspects of our future. But if you look at it from one particular point of view, we can focus in on some of the specific things that we're doing. These are the 4 strategic lenses that I'm going to talk about, and I will be talking to you about how the community and collaboration have helped drive the direction for each of these each of these strategic lenses. So the first one we're going to talk about, pervasive AI. Okay, so let's look at our strategy and our plan from the point of view of pervasive AI. You already saw that it is one of the top 5 things our customers are asking for right now. This survey was published in January of 2026. The survey was taken in the fall of 2025, and our customer base, 42% of them said AI is one of my biggest things. But it's not like we haven't seen this coming for a long time. We had a Common America's Advisory Council meeting. I believe it was in the fall of 2021 when we were finally getting back to doing in-person events. And what we knew inside of IBM, inside of IBMI, was that AI was going to explode into the marketplace pretty soon. This is pre-Chat GPT becoming a publicly available thing, but we all understood that AI was on its way. We had already done some AI inside of DB2, for example, there were already customers using IBM I to do AI things specifically for their things, specific things that they had created. So what I did during that fall of 2021 meeting with the Common Americas Advisory Council is I said, I want you guys to help us to focus in on the things that you think AI is going to apply to IBM I. How should we look at it? And because Chris was already trained in doing something called design thinking, I had him run that. And if you've never done a design thinking session before, one of the things that you do is you have people think for a little while and write down on sticky notes the answers to this question. How do you think IBM I could be used, or AI could be used for IBM I clients to provide new value? And those sticky notes then get organized together into sort of themes. So that's what we did. We asked them back in fall of 2021, write down a bunch of things. Well, I got to tell you, ever since 2021, here's one of the whiteboards in my office. You can see pictures that my grandchildren have created. You can see pictures of my family. You can see some notes about things that I've got to do. But right in the center of that, since fall of 2021, has been this list of sticky notes that our advisory council said, you, IBM I, could use AI to do these things that would help our clients. And some of those ideas were exactly what we were going to do. Some were things that, oh yeah, I suppose we could do that. We should look into how we would do it, etc. Well, we were driving the beginnings of some AI already, as I mentioned. We were going to focus on some new things. And so this was a collaborative way for us to gather information from trusted advisors about what they thought. We then turned that into a question that we began asking on this Fortress survey that we do every year. And lo and behold, data integration into AI for decision making, code development, systems management, security, and training, those 5 things were the 5 biggest things in that group of sticky notes. Okay. There were other things as well that people have been asked about. And we've asked this question now for 2 surveys, and you can tell sort of what the big hitters are. So we have been communicating ever since those sticky notes on the things that we plan to address with AI. Data analytics, systems operations, the experience of a developer using AI to help them develop. And recently, we've added this thing called digital labor because of the power of agentic to help supplement the labor force. Yes, in programming, but also in a lot of different things. And so we have some strategic goals to address these 4 categories, making AI beneficial to our client base. But we need to do it in the IBM I way. And so our strategic goals for AI are, well, we need to make this easy to deploy. That whole integrated nature of IBM I is we try to make things easy. Then we want to use AI so that you can get insights from your IBM I. We're not trying to make AI that can be the answer to every question in the world. There are plenty of AI people trying to do that. We're trying to make AI that helps you get information from and use your IBM I intelligently and help you learn and manage your system, in particular if you are new to the platform. Okay. And one of the techniques, one of the architectures that's active in the industry these days is agentic AI. This will probably be the last time I do this because I think pretty much everybody understands what agentic AI is about, but I'm going to use this one more time so that I can lead into what it is that we think we're going to do. So we think that the future of interacting with a system will continue to include things like people going to a screen and navigating through Navigator or ACS. It will continue to include that. When you're doing your day-to-day job, you're probably going to want to navigate, do operations that way, etc. But we also think people are going to want to be able to chat with their IBMI. They're going to want to be able to get information from their IBMI without having to navigate through a bunch of that stuff. And so we expect people to want to be able to ask questions about their system, like what job on my system is using the most resources. Well, to take a human language question like that and have information come back to an AI chat interface, there are protocols, standards being defined that we can build on top of. Now, we know we already have a bunch of services on IBM i that feed into things like Navigator, for example, or the green screen to be able to show information about jobs. Okay, so we've got services that can do that kind of stuff. How do we get from that human question to some answer that comes from the system? Well, MCP is defined to be something that will take that human language question, go to an LLM, figure out what specific things might this person be asking for, and then it will go off and ask MCP servers that it's connected to, hey, do you have a way for me to answer questions about jobs and resources for the system you're on? Have already created an MCP server, and we have wrapped a bunch of our services in these things that become tools, so that the MCP server can say, yes, I have a bunch of different tools that can help you with resources associated with jobs on this system. Okay, then the client says, please go off and use those tools, get me some information. The MCP server, the thing that runs on IBM i, will go and use those tools and then send the information back where the answer can be put, again, translated through the LLM to some sort of human readable thing into that chat interface. That's all well and good. That's agentic because it uses these MCP clients. It's kind of an agent that's talking to a server. But you could also automate this. Rather than having a person ask that question, you could write an agent, a program that is going to periodically ask that kind of question or go off and find that kind of information. Now, it turns out that in the world out there, if you're learning to do agentic programming, there are some roadblocks that are in the way for agentic programmers. You see, programmers who are doing agentic programming are similar to other programmers who've been around for decades and decades. What they want to be able to do is to just write the program that solves the problem. They don't want to have to worry about setting up the whole environment. But in today's early, and we are still very early in the AI world, okay, today's early world of agentic programming, programmers who are doing agentic programming are finding that they have to gather a security package, and they have to gather a running environment, and they have to gather a performance and software development lifecycle package, and they have to put it all together, because if someone's going to use their agentic programs, they have to, the programmer can't just provide the program, and they also have to provide the environment that the agentic program runs in, or they have to specify it, and then the user of the agentic program has to build that whole environment so that the agentic program can run. Some of those things are being defined in protocols and in environments, and there's a whole bunch of different environments being considered as the base thing that these agentic programs run in, but there is no defined approach for that. And we, IBM i, are perfectly set up for that, because this is exactly what the AS400 tried to solve way back in 1988. If we can create an environment where these programs will have all of the security, all of the performance data, all the software development lifecycle stuff that they would need as their base platform, then agentic programming is going to be simple on IBM i, and that's what we're finding. Now, we are in the process of building some of that infrastructure so that someone can do agentic programming on IBM i like they do it in a Linux environment, but also be able to express to those agentic programmers, you don't need to worry about going off and pulling in other security. We've got security related things. We've got systems management related things. We've got performance related things. They're all built into the environment you're running in. Don't worry about doing all the rest of that stuff. you can do agentic programming on this platform very, very simply. Now, we also know that people are going to want to do agentic programming right next to what they're currently doing on IBM I. So part of this is getting new programmers on IBM I using IBM I because it's a great place to do agentic. But part of it is also putting agentic programs next to the transaction stuff that you guys are already working on. And so we are working this, right? We've got an MCP server out there that people are using already. We are creating tools, which are the things that run on IBM I and get served up by the MCP server. So we are in the process of doing the infrastructure to be able to enable everything that I talked about. And it's all based on talking to people who are programmers who want to do these things. So it's very collaborative. So that's part of our AI strategy. There's another part of our AI strategy that relates to taking the capabilities of the Power Platform that we have. And this is, I'm about to go into this set of charts that I'm only going to spend a couple of minutes on, but I'm leaving them in there because I know there's some of the things that you all are going to want to have. Maybe you've got somebody talking about this stuff later, and then it's a good thing I'm not going to talk about it. Power 11 is, of course, our most recent version of Power, and one of the key things it tries to focus on is having the infrastructure at a hardware level that can be used to advance and accelerate AI workloads. Now, it's also about trying to make sure it's available and trying to make sure it works in a hybrid environment. But there are two basic things that are being done in Power. One is on-chip acceleration that everybody can use, because many of the AI workloads that are going to run natively on Power, and that'll include IBM I, can be benefited by on-chip acceleration. Then there's specific things, specific workloads, where if you can hand it off to something off-chip, it can really increase the transaction speed, the discovery speed of data, et cetera. So we have kind of two separate things in Power 11. There's the on-chip accelerator, and then there's a Spire accelerator. Spire is going to be good for some people. It's a fairly expensive thing, but for some people, you're going to want to use that. For everybody, the fact that you're going to be using a platform that has on-chip acceleration is going to benefit you. Now, today, people are using IBM I and Power to integrate with various AI stacks that are off to the side running on Red Hat. It's very distinct. You have to know something about how to put those other workloads on that other technology like Red Hat in order to get things working. And that's fine. We've got Jesse's team has been helping clients do that. We're trying to create reference architectures to make that as simple as we can. But the future is going to be, we're going to find ways so that you don't have to really know what the stack is under the covers. You just know that you're going to need a real-time something, a fraud detection, a content generation, or whatever, and we're going to help you get there. So you won't necessarily have to know all the details of the stuff underneath the covers. Now, another lens that we can look at is application development. And application development crosses several of our top concerns. And of course, the answer to that for the entire software development lifecycle that we've been talking about now for the last several months is IBM Bob, which will help you do all the things that you want to be able to do with your software development lifecycle, from coding to deploying to creating new things. Now, Bob is not meant to replace developers. It's meant to multiply the productivity of that programmer or the person who's defining and designing things. Bob is for a lot of different things. We talk about the nature of IBM I and what we think clients are going to be used for, but AIX, Tim spelled the AIX with a little I. I'll have to talk to him about that. Okay, so Bob, which is generally available right now for people to buy, can be used by developers to help what they're doing, people who are running the DevOps pipelines to do what they're doing, the business architects. We know that the first usage is likely going to be by developers who need to understand and have Bob help explain existing code. And then there are several things that we know clients are going to want to use it for, which is to refactor old monolithic code into smaller things to create automated tests, etc. Okay. And we've had a lot of IBMI clients using Bob in the preview, and they've used it to write new code, refactor code, debug, etc. All the things that are on this list. Okay. Now, Bob, the IBM Bob that you can get today, is really good at several of these things all by itself, but it can be enhanced to be better for IBM I. And so very soon, it's on the roadmap. We're going to be bringing out this thing called the premium package for I. So you're going to get Bob, the base Bob, and it's going to do good things for you. But then there are things that you're going to want to have the premium package for because it'll allow you to do things the IBM I way. So Bob will have a new persona when you put the premium package on that is an IBM I expert. So it's going to help you, for example, work with source code that's in QSys or in the IFS, because that's where IBM I developers have their source code. Bob, base Bob, doesn't know anything about QSys or IFS. So if you want to have Bob work with that code, you have to move your source code into a repository Bob understands. And you can do that if you want to, and it might be helpful to you if you've got a multi-platform development environment. But if you're going to work basically on IBM I, you'd rather continue to work in QSys and IFS. And that's one thing that the premium package would be able to help you do. We're also creating our own versions of prompts where we've learned how to ask questions of Bob to do things that Bob is going to want to do, you're going to want Bob to do because you're on IBM I. Things like being able to read and write to QSys, et cetera, to be able to run actions. And then when you want to do things like extracting business rules or generating a display file, you're going to want our experience to guide you. This is where we're investing the time to figure out how to talk to the large language models to get the result you want, again, through collaboration with people who've told us what they want, okay, so that we can have them, have Bob help you by you asking very simple, canned questions that we have already created in the background. So you can do complex things like modularizing code, generating test cases, et cetera, and you will be able to take advantage of the fact that we've already figured out how to ask those questions of the LLM. We're also going to allow you to add information, and we're going to add our own information to Bob so that you can ask it questions, and it won't go out and search for the answers out there on the internet so much as it'll answer the questions based on information that comes directly from IBM. So we'll have all of our manuals and all of our red books and so on so that you can get answers directly from that. So that is the application development that's going to be going on in the IBM I space, enhanced by an assistant who can use AI to help you do things in the IBM I way, in a smarter way than we would have ever done before. It can't do your job for you, but it can help you do your job addressing problems that you have much more simply than if you didn't have that assistance. So I showed you a chart with 4 strategic lenses. The next one is towards zero downtime. And I knew this was going to happen, right? We're going to run out of time before I can cover all these detailed slides. So again, you'll get these slides. Just realize that when we're doing towards zero downtime, what we're trying to do is to help clients at many levels of the platform. So first of all, there's Power 11. It itself is designed for 6 nines of availability, which means like you're only unavailable for like a couple minutes over the course of a year, right? The Power Box has things that help you to stay available even when you're having to do maintenance on the box. And then we've built things into the operating system so that it's easier for you to stay up even if you have issues. Multipath auto disable, for example, a relatively new capability. We've been encouraging clients for a long, long time to have multiple systems so that in case something happens, and of course, many of you have high availability. It may be Power HA, it may be one of the HA vendors, right? But we continue to advance our capabilities in our version of multi-system resiliency because we know clients need that. And we introduced back with 7.4 the ability to have zero planned downtime by having a mirrored pair of IBM I partitions who can work together so that at any given time, one of those partitions is always active, even if you are having to do something to the other system, the other partition. And so we've got a lot of near zero downtime things that we're working on in the planned space. One of those uses that technology to help you move from one place to another, and that's called Migrate While Active, WMA. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can do Migrate While Active. The one that we're currently helping customers with is allowing you, if you're at a release that can do Migrate While Active as your source system and you want to move to another platform, so move from Power 9 or Power 10 up to Power 11, for example, you can have zero downtime using Migrate While Active set up between those two systems. So you really don't have downtime when you transfer your workload, your running workload from one system to another, one physical system to another. And we're making many of these availability capabilities available in the Power Virtual Servers. So if you want to have some of your workload or all of your workload reside in our IBM cloud running on IBM I on Power, we can use Migrate While Active to help you get to the cloud. That's where we initially created Migrate While Active in the first place. All right, the fourth of the quadrants is in security. Now, while I didn't specifically mention it in the previous near zero downtime, the way that we decide what we're going to focus on is working with our client advisory councils on what the next most important thing is for them. So DB2 Mirror came into existence because of our largest clients saying, I have to have an active mirrored environment, and so on. Security is much the same way. We have advisory councils and specific security advisors who are either software vendors or they're consultants in the space who've been giving us advice over the years on what the next major thing ought to be. You'll know some of the people work for Service Express who give us advice on what we're going to be doing or what we ought to be doing in security. And again, security is a multifaceted approach. There's what we do within the operating system. So the integrated multi-factor authentication is a thing that our security advisors have been pushing us to do. Got to tell you, 10 years ago, the people who are working inside IBM said there's no way you can do multi-factor authentication in IBM I, but we found a way. Okay, so that's been a huge advance forward, and now we're doing things with external key management and preparing ourselves for the environment where quantum may be used to try to attack encrypted data to get ourselves to quantum resilient solutions. We have partnered with other parts of the IBM business to allow cyber resiliency. For example, Cyber Vault that allows clients to create known good versions of their data so that if they ever have ransomware attacks, they can easily revert back to the state that they were in before that ransomware attack came in. And then we want to make sure that all the capabilities that are being put out for other parts of Power run natively on IBM I, things like CVE detection and remediation and so on. So those are our four lenses that you can look at our strategy and our plan for. Of course, we deliver those things the way we've been delivering them historically. Major releases every 3 years, and that will continue into the future. And then stuff that we deliver you in between releases. Now, we often call those technology refreshes. That's because some of the features that we put out need to be aligned with new power and networking and cloud capabilities, and those things happen twice a year. So we do technology refreshes specifically to line up with that. But there's also the capability that we have within many of our components, like database, like Navigator, like the open source environment, to put things out in between whenever they're ready, right? And that's what we continue to do. So that roadmap remains the same. And then our support roadmap remains the same. Once you're on a release, you will have about 7 years of normal support, 3 years of extended support beyond that. And because we know there are releases coming after our current release forever into the future, this roadmap extends out to, well, you can begin to see the 2040s. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, you do need to plan for it because we cannot keep every release running on every Power family. This is not news to you. It's just remember, when a new Power family comes out, we can only have about 2 releases, maybe 3 releases at a time running on that Power family. So we have to deprecate the old Power families. And when we do a new release, we can't do it on every Power family that might be out there in the world. So we try to pick the ones that are going to be long-lived enough during the lifespan of that release. So 7.6 runs on Power 11, Power 10, doesn't go back to Power 9. So now we've got a strategy that has been heavily influenced by our community, by our advisors. This is that same strategy, but now filled in with the words that our clients are telling us are going to be important for them today and tomorrow. So now we've got agentic AI in there. Now we've got solutions development that uses AI. We've got the ability to do resiliency for businesses of all sizes, for example. Okay, so that's now the filled in part of our strategy, but we got there by working with you in the community to make that happen. And so now this roadmap that we have, you can see the directions we're going. So I'm not announcing when the next major release is. That would be silly. It's far too in advance, but you can see that we are working on things for application development in the future. We are working on things for agents. We are working even before then on helping clients use MicroL Active to do new kinds of things. We've introduced IBM Bob and the IBM I Premium package to be able to help clients get started with AI adoption early for their developers. You don't have to wait for another major release. And we have client stories about all of this sort of thing beginning to show up. We've got clients who are helping to be resistant against ransomware, who are using cloud to do backups, who are using robots and sensors and AI to do their business. And whether they're big clients or small clients, they're doing modernization, availability, and security management. This all represents what we see in our marketplace. You all are participating in this event because IBM I is critical to your business, and your business has seen significant value from that. Every year in that survey, we ask our survey respondents, do you believe your IBM I server gives you a better return on investment than other servers? And we know you have other servers. It is always the case that a strong majority of our clients believe that you get a better return on investment. That's what we're always shooting for. That's what that integration is all about. We're trying to make it so that we invest things in things that you're going to need so you don't have to spend a lot of time investing in them. We think that gives you a return that you're not going to get from other platforms. And we hope that this is the strategic goal that we can continue to satisfy well into the future. So there we go. That is the end of my presentation. I think you're on the best possible platform. I think what I've described to you today is a direction that we will have no problem fulfilling. And in part, that's because we've been able to work with so many members of the community, whether it's you as a customer, you as a solution vendor, you as a business partner, because you know where you want to go, and we think we can invest in the technology that will help you get there. So That's it. I know I've run us nearly to the end of time. Are there questions out there that I should be answering? That's the next thing to look for. Q&A.
There is one asking how they get pricing for the licenses.
Pricing for the license for, I don't know if they're talking specifically Bob or if it's IBMI. I'm afraid we're going to have to answer that one offline. And Peggy, who asked the question, are you talking about licensing for I or licensing for Bob? And Jay, you're right. I misrepresented the 6 nines because I don't do that chart all the time. So, okay.
Great.
All right. Anybody want to pop in?
He said for Bob.
Okay, it's for Bob. All right. Well, we'll get you that information. In fact, I think that there was a blog post about it that came out, but you're going to probably want to know the premium package for iStuff, and that has not been announced yet. And the announcement is probably within a couple weeks of happening. So pay attention to my socials, Tim Rose socials, etc. Because you will want to see that pricing as soon as it becomes available. Thank you. Okay. Bob Fry, when will it be available? All I can say legally is this. We put it on our roadmap, and the roadmap goes out until the end of the second quarter, and we're in the second quarter, so it's not too far off. That's what I can say legally. Okay. Folks, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to this group. You've got a tremendous agenda ahead of you. I hope you learn a lot of really good things. If there are questions that come up, feel free to find a way to get them to me, whether it's on LinkedIn or through the organizers of this event, and I will do the best I can. And if you send me something, don't be surprised if I involve one of the experts on my team in getting the answer, okay? All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate